My name is Noel, I'm a psychotherapist. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and if you're watching this on the website, welcome to that as well. One of my regular series of blogs looking at psychological and psychotherapeutic issues in life today. I suppose one can't ignore that there's a lot of changes going on in the world at the moment. Here in London, we've been affected by various changes such as Brexit and the US presidential election. So big things happening around the world and around us in this country. And it's interesting looking at some of the responses to that, thinking about the very large sort of series of women's marches that happened around the globe very recently, and there was a large one here in London as well. I happened to be in the centre of town that day. I met a number of the people coming off the march and had some interesting conversations over lunch, talking about what was motivating people to sort of engage in that. It took me back to being a boy at school in the 70s, actually, and the sort of changes that were taking place there, and the responses to sort of, I suppose, feminist movement at that time, which were quite strong. But it was interesting to sort of look at it from my own perspective as a boy and then a young man, and thinking about this issue of change and liberation and growth, which I think belongs to all of us. It doesn't belong to a specific gender or race. We can tend to split off people and say they're not like us. We talk about the other. But when we engage with people and understand our commonality, then maybe we have something to learn from that. We are, after all, social animals. That's where we come from. I think what I learnt growing up was that although on the one hand in the feminist women's movement they were fighting for women's rights, actually opened up a world of possibilities for myself as a guy, but as a human being. The range of options about how I might define who I am in this world suddenly grew, and I had a lot more options than, say, my father, for example. And I think about some of the young men I now know growing up, and how much more comfortable they are with themselves, and how they can construct their own identity and create a group around them, where they're much more free to express how they feel about themselves, who they want to be. So again, seeing this sort of connection between us rather than the difference, I think is a useful thing at this particular point. There's a psychological use in that, in connecting with and learning from people. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything somebody's doing, and neither does it mean you have to disagree with everything that somebody's doing. So avoiding that sort of black and white polarisation is a very good thing. When we get into that sort of thinking, we're actually causing damage to ourselves and shutting down our own options. So it's about remaining open. And how do we turn the sort of negativity that we're seeing around us, and there's a lot of negativity around, for example, into a positivity? I guess it's the old adage, thinking about don't engage in gossip. If you haven't got something good to say, don't say the negative. If I look at my Facebook feed, for example, there's a lot of sort of baiting and anger and those types of things going on. I tend to step out of those conversations and look at how I can contribute positively to things without watering down whatever message I have and whatever message you have indeed. But again, opening up to that sort of pro-social activity is what we think of it. Being pro-social in the way that we engage with this stuff, not creating fear and division, but genuinely engaging and creating connection with other people, whilst also maintaining our own sense of self and identity. It's not about codependently losing our identity, but it's about being assertive in how we communicate our message. So we stay on message with what it is that we have to say, and I guess my message is about connection, is about personal and group freedom, is about sort of ethical and moral connections between us, which then translates into issues about the rights that we all have in common. And I'm a very sort of strong advocate of that we have common rights and common bonds between us. I've been involved in sort of human rights work for many years. I used to work with traumatised refugees for many years, for example, in my practice as a therapist. So that's where I'm coming from, and I can engage with that sort of story and that sort of dialogue in a very sort of pro-social and active manner. I don't need to turn other people into bad and wrong. And I think avoiding that trap of seeing somebody as different who then becomes wrong and bad. It's not. On the whole, people are different, but it's good. Difference is a good thing that we can engage with and learn from each other with. And then I suppose the final point I want to make around this time is that thinking then proactively about if you are feeling anxiety and fear about some of the changes that are going on at the moment, and change itself can produce anxiety and fear. The tendency can be to isolate and disconnect and to become a sort of atomized individual and start building up your own little castle, walls, if you like. Well, I would suggest that that's not a very sort of sensible strategy at this point. Have a think about your network. Have a think about the people in it. Have a think about how you might broaden your network. Having a heterogeneous, diverse social group is actually the quickest, the easiest and the most effective way to have emotional health, mental health, physical health, relationship health, to be successful in many, many areas. In fact, at the moment in the UK, for example, they're developing all of these what we call peer-to-peer groups around many chronic long-term conditions, around mental health issues, addiction issues, around physical health issues such as diabetes, etc. Because the power of heterogeneous, diverse social groups to heal is actually quite profound. So have a think about your network rather than shut it down, which would be the tendency at this point, because we have strong opinions going around and you don't like somebody's opinion, so you unfriend them or you avoid them or you ghost them, as they say in the US. Well, try and do the opposite. Try and be inclusive and open to the diversity and the debate that's going on without it allowing you to step into a fear-based position. I hope that's been useful. Do get hold of me if you want to talk through any of the issues, if it's bringing up issues for you or triggering things for you. I know that can happen at times like this. Do get in touch. The details are on the website and underneath the videos, or you can give me a call. That's 07506 319 745. That's 07506 319 745. Thanks for being here, and you'll get more of these videos. They're designed to be helpful, so please do leave comments and let me know what you find useful and what you don't find useful. Thanks for joining me. See you again. Bye-bye.